Pace in Utah. Several students and adults participated in an hours-long walkout from Utah's Mount Nabel Middle School on Wednesday. The reason for the protest? Furries. Hey everyone, Misha B. Barkin here. So yeah, we're talking about furries in the news, in the schools, again. This time we travel to the state of Utah, which, unless you're Mormon, you're likely gonna hate it here, where we find Mount Nebo Middle School. The school is a big source of news, info, and especially misinfo on everyone's favorite site. So what happened exactly? What was said and how much of it was true? Let's talk about that today. At Mount Nebo Middle School, according to ABC News, people signed a petition that reached over 1,000 signatures, leading to students walking out and protesting. What were they protesting, you may ask? Furries. Sorta, but not really. The petition asked that the school better enforce their dress code, which states jewelry, accessories, tattoos, hair, facial hair, and other elements of a student's appearance that draw undue attention, distract, disrupt, or otherwise interfere with the learning atmosphere at school or at school activities and events, or that create a health, safety, or welfare issue are prohibited. So how exactly did this get tied back to furries? Well, another claim is that there were daily attacks from furries, from scratching to biting, and from barking to spraying air freshener on kids, apparently. So this led to the walkout, with students holding signs saying things such as "compelled speech is not free speech," "I will not comply," and "we just wanted to learn." So, this sounds pretty bad, right? Like, we can all agree that if this was happening, the school should definitely take a stance against this and enforce rules to prevent these attacks. And, well, that's the thing, if this was happening. When asking around, students weren't sure exactly how many students were furries, with answers ranging from 5 to over 100. They also never gave any changes they wanted from their protesting, according to Seth Sorensen, a Naval School District Information Officer. He encouraged those protesters to come speak with him and other officials so that changes may be made, and seemingly none of them took him up on that offer. School officials have also stepped in and said, yeah, this is legit just not happening. Sorensen says that while there has been issues with students feeling harassed or unsafe, any info being spread about actual physical assault taking place concerning furries is false. He also states that the videos being shared are from other schools, not Mount Nebo, due to the school having a dress code preventing furries from dressing up as cats and dogs. He said that the worst that the students are doing is wearing headbands with cat ears, which isn't really any worse than a student wearing a bow or their favorite team's jersey. This entire situation supposedly started with the harassment issues being addressed in emails sent to the entire school's student body, and according to Sorensen, some of these emails were misinterpreted, and parents took to online formats to voice some of their concerns and questions. So the parents misunderstood and blew it way out of proportion. Again. Y'all remember the litter boxes in schools thing, I'm sure. That was also started and pushed by parents making shit up and using it as ammunition to hate people not like them. Not to mention their target being a group that has an overwhelming number of queer and trans members, but I'm sure that's just coincidence, right? So yeah, this just plain isn't happening how the kids are saying it is, and while they do have the right to protest what they believe, it'd be better if they protested actual things going on. But wait, they interviewed a furry who agreed with the protesters. Next segment, please. Strudel is a furry that ABC News seemingly found in an abandoned box and said, hey, talk with us about this, please. Seriously, as far as I can tell, Strudel has zero relation to the school and is a full-blown adult who's been in the community for over 10 years. So a bit of an odd choice to have as an interviewee, but what did they have to say? Strudel stated that kids latch onto things really easily and can see how dressing up at school can be distracting. It may be best to keep the two things separate. And honestly, I don't disagree with Strudel, but that's not what's happening here, is it? We live in a time where nearly every kid in middle school has a smartphone, or some kind of phone with a camera. Someone would have been recording this happening, but alas, nothing has surfaced. Again, we're all likely in agreement that if furries were attacking and biting students, something would have to be done, but that's not what's happening. ABC also didn't include any prompts or questions they asked Strudel, so Strudel's words could have been taken out of context here. They could have told Strudel that this was happening, or asked what their opinions would be on furries dressing up in fursuits and barking at their peers, and since it's a newscaster asking you these questions, odds are you believe them. We've seen this countless times before, and I talked about this when a furry went on Fox News and tried to defend the fandom, but instead got talked over and had their words taken out of context constantly, and ended up making a fool out of himself and all of us. In the end, the news station gets to decide what makes the news and what gets shown to the public. Now this could have all blown over, as while the news article is a bit misleading at first, they do state that officials say nothing is going on, so we know the full story, pack it up, right? Unfortunately not. Enter the Twitter page End Wokeness, a notorious page that exploded in popularity on Elon's Twitter and is very notorious for misrepresenting videos, taking small snippets of articles or situations out of context and adding their own to push an anti-LGBT transphobic agenda. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that furries have been their target a few times, right? They posted the following caption attached to the video of Strudel giving the interview. What a time to be alive. Yesterday, over 70 students walked out of Mount Nibble School to protest the school for letting furries to bite, bark, and lick them. ABC even interviewed a member of the furry community, they, them, to give a comment about the situation. So let's talk about that post and what's going on here. Of course, this video is from the same publishers of the article we discussed earlier, ABC News. However, they cut out the entire video sub Strudel giving the interview. They also only mention the accusations made by the students and don't even mention the part with the officials saying what's really going on, but this is on purpose. All it would take to get further context and learn that in Wokeness cherry-picked the worst sounding parts would be to look up ABC News and find the actual article. But those who hate queer people won't do that. They get to see this post with no context on Twitter and take it as an absolute fact, while those of us affected by this are forced to deal with the slander and try to reason with brick walls incapable of rational thinking. Media literacy has gotten horrible as of late, and confirmation bias is a hell of a drug. They don't want to know the truth. They want to have someone else say whatever awful lies to make their baseless hatred seem valid, and say they're right to hate the gays. Pages like In Wokeness do this all the time towards furries, trans, and gay people, and anyone who isn't white. And since they pay $8, their views and terrible statements towards minorities get to be promoted to the world and be front and center, especially for new members. Isn't that great? I love the new Twitter, man. It's me, dude. And yes, they are getting paid for this. They make sure to word things in a way that'll make the subjects look as terrible as possible. Take the they, them, and in Wokeness's post. Now, normally including pronouns for someone is a good thing, right? I can guarantee you in Wokeness did not include this to be a good person. Nowhere in the news article or interview did it say Strudel went by they, them pronouns, so they just made that up. Why did they do that? Because they know their audience. They know that those who follow their page hate people who have pronouns in their bios, and especially those with they, them as their main pronoun. So including this in the caption makes the furry being interviewed look even worse in their followers' eyes. They're willing to omit information, add false information, and slander those they hate in order to push the agenda of hating furries, and by extension, queer people. So even though it took like 5 minutes for me to find the real article and learn the whole context so I can talk about it in this video, the people who shout the loudest and spit the most venom towards minorities don't care to do that, and will be rewarded for it. Unfortunately, as it stands, there's not much you can do to prevent others from spreading misinformation, but what can you do to avoid spreading it yourself? First and foremost, always double check things you hear online. You should do this with things you agree with, disagree with, and everything in between. I've said it before, but this includes things you see and hear in my videos. I'm not a source of information to be cited, as I was nowhere near Utah, thank God for that. I simply did research to compile what I found in this video, and I highly encourage you to do the same before coming up with concrete opinions on topics. Secondly, have more than one source. It's easy to see how pages like In Wokeness can lie and misrepresent a situation, and through finding other sources talking about that information, I found out that they were spreading lies to push their agendas. Lastly, make sure your source is reputable. There's a huge factor in why I trust an actual news source rather than some chud with a hatred of people who don't look like him. ABC News was there at the school, interviewing actual people involved, while In Wokeness used footage of the one person not involved in their post. So, we're to the end of the video. I want to give a quick thank you to Punk Bunny, a furry who made a wonderful thread about misinformation, bad actors, and this whole situation over on Twitter. Their thread made finding info easy and provided a solid framework for the order and format of this video. That said, be careful about what info you consume and where it comes from, and be sure to always double check your sources. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Hi, Misha 5 seconds in the future here. Just took the biggest sippy of my life.